Maurice Nicole's Psychological Commentaries, Volume 3, based on Nicole's work with Gurdjieff, Ospensky, and Jung. Quiramid Ugly, September 29th, 1945. Commentary on Making Decisions in the Work. This is video 3 of 3. We try this and we try that, but we find that it leads nowhere. For example, we do this and then we find that we do not move, and so on. We make effort in this direction and find that as a consequence, we make less effort in some other direction. Through self-observation and not becoming depressed and negative by our failure, we can approach a point in which we can realize that decisions cannot be made in this way that we have been trying to make them hitherto. We find the ground of decisions to lie much deeper than we thought. And so we learn we have to have patience toward ourselves, which is so necessary. We begin to see that what we want to happen to us to change is to change us. And yet a way we know that we cannot do it ourselves exactly, and that this change that we internally wish for will not come about by making any sudden decisions through small eyes on the opposites. And at the same time, we wish for this change to take place, however we may feel in regard to it. Then the decision is becoming emotional. That is, it is penetrating much more deeply than the level of small and sudden eyes, sudden forms of self-torture. Now, speaking from another point of view, and yet about the same thing, really, it is the third force of the work that can change us. The first thing the work says we can do is remember ourselves, and in that connection with that, it teaches many other things that we can do, such as inner separation from negative thoughts and feelings and so on. But all these secondary things that it teaches are in connection with self-remembering. Take, for example, the teaching of the work about identifying with ourselves or with external events. All this is connected with self-remembering. All this studying about how we cannot remember ourselves because, as you know, if you're very identified with your negative emotions or with behavior of someone towards you, you are not in a state of self-remembering, but in the very reverse. You are indulging in inner talking and inner considering and self-justifying. You are not remembering yourself. You are not in the third state of consciousness, which is defined as a state of self-remembering. The teaching of the work is to lift us up in this state which we should have and which we were born to have. In this third state of consciousness, at this level, influences can reach us which can help. It is as if we put our heads above water and felt the air and the sunlight. If any of you are trying to remember yourselves at the moment of the day and you do it at whatever moment you can, and quite sincerely, you will always notice a sudden brightness around you. Now, if we were in a state of self-remembering, we should know how to make decisions. But when we are asleep in ourselves, when we are identified and worried about ourselves, we make decisions from binaries, as Gurdjieff called them, from the opposites. Gurdjieff said the struggle between yes and no is not solved by yes and no, yes or no. That is, the opposites or the binaries. If we were always in a state of self-remembering, always in the third state of consciousness, our decisions would be real ones that would lead to a real result, which Gurdjieff called leading to a quaternary. There is a story behind, well, there is a story about a blind girl whose 5 brothers go out into the world and turn, thinking they can do, but all fail and become lost in the world. Then goes the blind girl into the world she does not think she can do, but she holds on to a thread that she has woven, one end of which is bound fast to the sun. She never lets go of this thread, and as a result, she is able to help her brothers and other people in the world simply because she does not trust in herself to find the way, but looks to the thread to guide her. Why this girl is shown as being blind? She's blind to the external world. She does not act through her senses, but she holds on to something internal. Now, if a person could remember himself all the time and notice everything that caused him to identify, that is, to cease to self remember, he would be holding this thread that comes from the sun, from a higher level. And if such a person's decisions were always to remember himself, whatever was happening to him, he would be in a third state of consciousness, and his decisions would be a real decision, which has nothing to do with opposites or binaries. Yet to ordinary people, it would not seem like a decision. This decision that one should remember oneself, this decision to fight for self remembering every day in spite of everything.